Today is Good Friday. Good Friday carries lots of significance for a lot of people. The question may be asked, is Good Friday a federal holiday? The answer to that is no. Good Friday is not a federal government holiday. That means lots of federal government offices could be open today. However, Good Friday is a state government holiday in 12 states in America. And those 12 states are Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Hawaii, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Jersey, North Carolina, North Dakota, Tennessee, and Texas. Therefore, state government offices in these states will be closed on Good Friday in honor of that day. Moving forward, Good Friday is a time to commemorate the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and his death at Calvary. The plot to kill Jesus. The scriptures teaches us in the Bible that the chief priests, scribes, and elders of the people of that day got together with the high priest named Caiaphas, and they consulted together how they might take Jesus by subtlety and kill him. John 11:47 through 48 says, "Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council, and said, What do we? For this man doeth many miracles. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation." Caiaphas prophesies. In John chapter 11, verses 49 through 52, the Bible says, "And one of them named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, Ye know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. And this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus should die for that whole nation, and not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of God that were scattered abroad." At that same time the Passover was at hand, and many went up to Jerusalem to prepare for the Passover. The Bible teaches us that Judas Iscariot received a band of men and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, and they went forth with lanterns and torches and weapons. Judas knew the place where Jesus was at, for oftentimes Jesus went there with his disciples, the Garden of Gethsemane. Judas Iscariot was paid 30 pieces of silver for betraying Jesus, and told the guards that whomever he kissed, that would be Jesus. After the betrayal, Jesus was arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane. Following his arrest, Jesus was taken to the house of Annas, the father-in-law of the high priest Caiaphas. There he was interrogated, then sent bound to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the Sanhedrin had assembled. Accusations against Jesus was brought forth by many people, to which Jesus answered nothing. Matthew 26:63 through 64 says, "But Jesus held his peace, and the high priest answered and said unto him, I adjure thee by the living God, that thou tell us whether thou be the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus said unto them, Thou hast said, Nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter shall you see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power, and coming in the clouds of heaven." The high priest accused Jesus for blasphemy, and the Sanhedrin concurred with a sentence of death. The Bible says that they spit in Jesus' face, they buffeted him, they smote him with the palms of their hands. Peter denies Jesus. Peter, waiting in the courtyard, also denied Jesus 3 times to bystanders while the interrogations were proceeding just as Jesus had foretold. In the morning, the whole assembly brought Jesus to the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, under the charges of subverting the nation, opposing taxes to Caesar, and making himself a king. Pilate authorized the Jewish leaders to judge Jesus according to their own law and execute sentencing. However, the Jewish leaders replied that they were not allowed by the Romans to carry out a sentence of death. Pilate questioned Jesus and told the assembly that there was no basis for sentencing. Upon learning that Jesus was from Galilee, Pilate referred the case to the ruler of Galilee, King Herod, who was at that time in Jerusalem. Herod questioned Jesus but received no answer. Then Herod sent Jesus back to Pilate. Pilate told the assembly that neither he nor Herod found Jesus to be guilty. Pilate resolved to have Jesus whipped and then released. Under the guidance of the chief priests, the crowds asked for Barabbas, who had been imprisoned for committing murder, to be released. Pilate asked what they would have him to do with Jesus, and they demanded, "Crucify him, crucify him." Pilate's wife had seen Jesus in a dream earlier that day, and she forewarned Pilate to have nothing to do with this righteous man. Pilate had Jesus flogged and then brought him out to the crowd to hope to release him. But the chief priests informed Pilate of a new charge demanding Jesus to be sentenced to death because he claimed to be God's son. This possibility filled Pilate with fear, and he brought Jesus back inside the palace and demanded to know where he came from. Coming before the crowd one last time, Pilate declared Jesus innocent and washed his hands in water to show he had no part in his condemnation. Jesus carried his cross to the site of execution, assisted by Simon the Cyrene. That place is called the place of the skull, or in Hebrew it is called Golgotha, and in Latin it is called Calvary. There he was crucified along with two criminals. Jesus was agonizing on the cross for 6 hours. During his last 3 hours on the cross, from noon to 3 p.m., darkness had fell over the whole land. In the Gospels of Matthew and Mark, Jesus quoted Psalms 22, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" With a loud cry, Jesus gave up his spirit. There was an earthquake, tombs had broke open, and the curtain in the temple was torn from top to bottom. The centurion on guard at the site of crucifixion declared, "Truly this was God's Son."